You could call it a tweet tirade or perhaps an online onslaught, but by any definition, the president is once again using the virtual bully pulpit to take shots at perhaps his political enemies, or in this case, his fired former FBI director. He says this: Democrats can't find a smoking gun tying the Trump campaign to Russia after James Comey's testimony. No smoking gun, no collusion at Fox News. That's because there was, all caps, no collusion. So now the Dems go to a simple private transaction, wrongly calling it a campaign contribution, which it was not. But even if it was, it's only a civil case like Obama's, but it was done correctly by a lawyer, and there would not even be a fine. Lawyer's liability if he made a mistake, not me. Cohen, speaking of Michael Cohen, his former fixer, just trying to get his sentence reduced, all caps, witch hunt. Now, this comes after Comey's behind-closed-doors testimony before House lawmakers, about which the president criticized Comey's faulty memory.
There he goes again. I thought I was lying, James Comey. Now I'm leaking James Comey. We have to remind ourselves, the President of the United States of America is publicly announcing that people are committing crimes, they should be in jail, private citizens. That's not okay.
Of course, it is also possible that Comey, Bill, could once again have to testify. You heard Senator Goodlatte mention that. Lindsey Graham and others have said as much as well, Bill.
The White House saying about the Washington Post story, suggesting Trump campaign officials were in contact with Russians during the transition, Kevin.
Listen, on the record, Bill, they're not saying a great deal. Off the record, they're sort of trying to poke holes in some of the reporting that you've seen out there, in particular in the Washington Post. I want to lay it out slowly for the people at home who haven't had a chance to sort of wash in it the way we have inside the Beltway. What they're suggesting is this idea that General Flynn interacted with officials representing Moscow is not on its face uncommon or even unlawful. The White House officials that I've talked to point to the fact that, among other topics, Flynn is said to have discussed getting the Kremlin to side with the U.S. on an issue involving Israel. However, the Post, citing Michael Cohen's testimony, said that he was also in contact with Russians about building a Trump property in Moscow. And again, their argument is, so what? That's not nefarious, nor is it illegal. But the question obviously becomes, Bill, was there a quid pro quo? And that is yet to be proven. Bill?
All right, one more question for you. What's the latest on a new White House chief of staff and that search, Kevin?
Yeah, a real surprise over the weekend. A lot of people felt like it would be Nick Ayers, the vice president's chief of staff. He is very, very highly regarded here in the nation's capital, and in particular here at the White House. Very strong reputation, but he didn't want to commit to working for the Trump White House through 2020, and so that leaves the outgoing chief of staff, John Kelly, in a bit of a holding pattern, waiting to get his replacement up to speed. That is, of course, depending on who he is or she is. But the general's departure, Bill, is also raising questions about Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen. She is said to be very close to Kelly. His departure, it is thought, could signal hers as well. As for possible Kelly replacement, names we're most often hearing here at the White House: Mick Mulvaney, Mark Meadows, Matt Whitaker. A trio there, all qualified. We'll see what, if anything, the president decides to do in the day ahead.